What's up? I'm the Car 131, and this is my review of the KCI Glock magazines. When you get your KCI Glock magazines, I assume this is true for most magazines, but they just come in this basic bag, Gen 2. Follow them on some social medias. Tells you which it is. 17 round 9mm Glock. Easy to open. And all in all, it feels a lot better than I thought it would. To say, I bought these on Big Daddy Unlimited for $7. This does not feel like a $7 magazine. You can see the steel reinforced feed lips. It doesn't feel flimsy. It feels pretty well made. KCI USA, Korea made. Got your witness holes. They're all labeled down to 17. Yeah, there we go. Get it to focus. All in all, first impressions, they look pretty good. All right, so I don't know how many of you follow other gun YouTubers, but Such, Mr. Guns and Gear, Warrior Poet Society, whatever. A lot of the other bigger name gun YouTubers, some of them have done reviews on other Glock magazines, and by and large, you might have found that a lot of them don't actually recommend you really run anything besides OEM Glock magazines. And that's what I started out doing. When I first got my Glock 45 MOS, I started out with just a couple OEM factory Glock magazines. However, I was perusing Big Daddy Unlimited, where I bought most of these, and I happened across a couple Glock magazines that the price alone made me kind of pause and look at them again. So I'm talking about these KCI USA Glock magazines. On Big Daddy Unlimited, and I'll get the price out of the way right now. Big Daddy Unlimited has these for $7. Gun Mag Warehouse has them for about $9. So either way, no matter which site you buy them from, you're getting Glock magazines that are less than half the price of OEM factory Glock magazines. And that alone made me pause and look at them again. I mean, obviously, yeah, I went into it expecting them to be trash. I expected them to maybe work kind of okay for just range use, plinking, and practice. I definitely would never expect that $7, let's go take the average, whatever, $8 magazines would be, in my opinion, 95% as good as OEM factory magazines. All right, this is the first shots I'm doing through the KCI magazines. Got some Wolf 115 grain. Let's see if it runs. So, didn't lock it back, but that was me. I have my thumb's high grip often overrides that slide stop. But first mag through these things was pretty solid. Alright, just to make sure these KCI mags are locking back, I'm going to load one and make sure my finger's not on the release. It's just me riding a release. So a little about these KCI Glock magazines. Let's take the cleaner one. You can see KCI USA. This is number 4. I number my mags, but we got a factory Glock magazine. Hopefully you can see that. But just kind of going over them from the outside, there's really hardly any difference at all. All right, so I broke the two magazines apart just to kind of compare what they look like on the inside. even on the inside, these look almost exactly the same, you know? All the parts, they pretty much all look exactly the same. Glock factory on the left, KCI on the right. Not really any difference at all. Again, Glock on left. The bodies, they look almost exactly the same. So I'm going to be pretty interested to see how these KCI compare, considering they cost almost a third the price. So again, why did I even bother picking these up? Well, the price. Literally, that's the only reason why I even considered checking them out. Because again, I've watched other YouTubers, big gun YouTubers videos on other Glock magazines, and again, by and large, the majority of them say you can't trust them. You know, like Magpul, ETS, SGM, whatever. Some of them are hit or miss. Other ones they say just flat out don't work for one reason or another. Well, I'm very proud to say, as of right now, with my testing that I've done so far, these KCI magazines are basically as reliable, just as good as OEM factory magazines. Now, this is coming from a guy that's only had a Glock for 4 months-ish, and I don't have a whole lot of practice on them. However, these KCI magazines, I do have almost 2,000 rounds down, again, ish, because I have more than just the KCI mags. I have a couple Glock factory mags too. So I didn't put all 2,000 through the KCIs, but most. I've tried to prioritize the KCIs just for this test, but around 2,000 rounds, I've done drop testing. I have done a test I came up with I like to call the Traxxas test. All right, I got my poor old KCI2 strapped up to the Traxxas Stampede. See how it handles it. All right, I had to stop and cut away for a second. I forgot to mark the top round. I was planning on marking it so I could tell if it was the same one. Forgot to mark it. It feels like it lost some rounds. I'm not sure if that's a common thing to expect, but whenever I fire it, we can just check and see how many rounds are left in the magazine. Overall though, I mean, it's definitely a lot more scuffed up. There's a lot of rock dust, and it took some abuse, but let's see if it still works. All right, so lock the slide open and it still worked. I only had like 7 or 8 rounds, which again, I'm not sure if that's to be expected, considering I haven't done this with a standard magazine. Although there was 17 rounds in it, so it was pretty much fully loaded. So we lost a lot of them, but running around on some gravel about here to the very far end's about 50 yards. So had a little bit of decent time getting drug around on this gravel, and it still worked. And all of that, after all of that, all of these KCI magazines still work. Now, the only one issue that I have found is, for the record, the vast majority, actually all of the abusive testing I've been doing on these KCI mags has been done on KCI 2, the second magazine, and you can look at it and tell it's had some abuse done to it. It's scuffed up, it's got ran around on rocks, it's got drop tested. So despite that, KCI 2 still works. Now, there's two issues I have with these magazines actually. The first one is that the one point I will give to the factory OEM mags and say as a con for these, when I'm using my ETS cam loader, these do seem a bit harder to load. I have no idea why, but they are. The factory magazines do seem to load easier. So if you have an ETS loader, that could be a big deal. If you don't, if you use a mag lula or you load them by hand, that's totally non-issue, because factory, just hand loading and pushing them in, they work the same exact way. Now, as I was saying, the only other problem that these KCIs have, and actually not all the KCIs, as you'll see here in a second, only KCI 2 that's had the drop testing and the Traxxas test done on it. Hopefully you guys can see this. This top round has quite a bit of play in it. Okay, that's KCI 2. And then compared to a factory Glock magazine, there's a tiny fraction of a millimeter of play. And another KCI magazine, this was in the first 4 that I got. This is one of the ones that has had almost 2,000 rounds put through it, but no drop testing, no Traxxas test, anything like that. This one has just been dropped on rocks whenever I'm doing reloads and tossed around, stuff like that. Nothing outwardly abusive, but same thing with this one. There's basically no play at all. So that is one con that I will give to the KCI mags that I have drop tested and done abusive testing on. I don't know if factory magazines would act the same way. I don't know. I will say though that to say I've done multiple drop tests fully loaded. I've driven it around on this gravel down and back a couple times. Actually, I did the Traxxas test twice, because the first time I forgot to hit record, so multiple passes with the Traxxas up and down this gravel range. And this KCI 2 it still works. There's no issues with it at all. So I'll slide back. KCI 2, it still works. Despite the slight wobble in that first round and all the scuffs and the feed lips, they might be separating a little bit, again, because that top round is wobbling a little bit, but it still works. It still works perfectly fine. And I will still call that, I'll call the feed lips might be separating a little bit a con, but overall I'll still call it a win. For all the abuse that this one magazine has taken, it still works, still locks the slide back. I would say that's harsher than the vast majority of people are going to put mags through. Not very many people are going to repeatedly drop their fully loaded mags on concrete from shoulder height, and they're not going to drive them around dragging behind a RC truck. So a little bit of other information about the KCI magazines. They are made out of South Korea, so for some people that is definitely going to be a con. They would like them to be made in America or some other country they know more about, like more about, whatever. I would kind of counter that by saying that it's South Korea. North Korea is the one that sucks. South Korea is, I mean, as far as I'm aware, they're allies to America and they have no issues with us politically. I could be wrong, I'm not real up to date on national politics, but either way, some would say that's a con. I'm saying that's just a fact. I don't really care where they're made as long as they work, and they certainly seem to. So I would also counter people saying, oh, they don't like that it's made in South Korea by saying OEM Glock magazines, as far as I understand, are made in Austria. And do I need to remind everyone who Austria brought into the world in the early 20th century? Other information about the KCI magazines, and I'll link them down in the description so you can check them out, their actual website. But they don't make just Glock mags. They make Glock 17, which is what all the ones I have are Glock 19, 33 round Glock magazines. They make a MP5, 1911, AR, AK, SKS. I think they make P90 mags, M1 carbine. They make a lot of different magazines, and I only have any experience with the Glock 17 mags, but if the other mags are as reliable, then I would say they're definitely ready for range use. Last fun fact I have for KCI as a company is, according to their own website anyway, so according to them, they are actually the OEM for a couple other magazine companies. The big one they list is SGM. So SGM is another one of the companies I've seen reviewed a couple times that actually seems to get fairly good reviews. So I'd say that's definitely a pro for KCI as a company. If they're the ones that originally make the magazines other people say are pretty reliable, you can save a bit of money and just buy straight through KCI. All right, so as of this video, Christmas of 2019, what is the verdict on these KCI magazines? In my personal experience, in my testing, these are absolutely, undoubtedly range ready and practice ready. I would hesitate to say that they're quite self-defense ready yet, simply because I don't have the track record with them. I'm going to work on it. I'm going to keep using them, obviously. But for self-defense and concealed carry, home defense, stuff like that, I would probably still lean toward factory OEM Glock magazines. And I would say that simply because they have the track record of reliability. Like I said, other gun YouTubers, they've reviewed a lot of different magazines, and the one that reliably they all say is good and they always work are the factory OEM mags. So that's why when I keep these this Glock loaded at home, or if I carry it, whatever, it's definitely going to be OEM mags for now. As of right now, these KCI mags are on the fast track to be what I would qualify as actual self-defense ready and reliable enough to trust keeping in your gun whenever you're concealed carrying, home defense, whatever. So yeah, these KCI magazines are definitely, as of right now, they're probably going to be what I keep buying just for range use. And again, in the future, I might bump them up to what I would call self-defense ready, because the price, which I said in the very beginning of the video, is the biggest pro. It really is. They're only $7 on Big Daddy Unlimited. Yeah, you have to make an account, but if you buy gun parts, then that's not a big deal. You should have one anyway. $7 for these magazines that, as of right now, they seem made almost exactly the same way as factory mags, and they seem to be holding up basically just as good. 98% as good. It's kind of a no-brainer. I'll make an update video if anything should happen to these and they stop working. But yeah, as of right now, these definitely have my thumbs up, and I'm going to keep using them, keep buying more, and I'll keep you guys updated if anything catastrophic happens. So yeah. Do you have any experience with the KCI mags? Again, I've seen some other smaller YouTubers that, frankly, I've never heard of. Smaller YouTubers that aren't very big yet. I've seen them review them. I haven't actually watched any of them, but I've seen their videos. I've seen the thumbnails, whatever. Do you have any experience with them? Because if so, tell me in the comments down below. What do you guys think? If you've had good experience, bad experience, whatever, let me know. I'd like to know what you guys have experienced with these KCI mags. If you liked the video, found it informative, give me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing. I'm trying my best to get a video out about every Friday. It's kind of hard between ammo expenses, things to review, and my actual full-time job, but I'm doing the best I can. I've been pretty reliable about keeping a video up every Friday, so consider subscribing. I'm the Calcara 131, signing off.